Good evening, fine purveyors of YouTubeage. This is the Zachrilege cast, the one true podcast slash videocast slash badly audioed piece of entertainment hosted by yours truly. This show's mission statement is to highlight the podcast voices, often the first voices of reason and truth people hear on their journey to being atheists. I'd like to thank last week's guests, Gene and Scott of the Hickory Humanist Alliance, who I'll be seeing in 3 days. Tonight, though, we're heading out west. Before that, let's hit the preamble. So tonight, I'll talk a little bit about identity. I decided to use my newly acquired iMovie skills in a video that I called I Am. But ultimately, I had to create 3 different versions of who I am because that's just how the internet and society appears to work at the moment. I have the version on my Zachrilege Cast YouTube page, one for my sporting self, a Zach Law Online, if you want a taste of that, and a third for the full professional identity, Hold the Flying Spaghetti Monster. You see, I'm still not 100% prepared to come out. I don't know if people will notice or care, but I do know that once it happens, there's no going back. So for now, it's the show, the Zachrilege Twitter account, and the weekend in North Carolina, which I'll get into much later. Tonight, I'm bringing on 2 guests, Aaron and Steve of the Waiting for Wrath, and yes, that's the number 4 of Wyoming, which is a real state in America because I've actually been there.
Oh.
They had me at Beer and Atheism. The show is 23 episodes strong, and it's normally 4 people drinking and talking, and what could be wrong with that? As I mentioned, I have Aaron, Frustrated Atheist, didn't know there was another kind, and Steve, a.k.a. The Family Man. Hello, fine gents.
Hello there.
Evening. I hear if you live in Estonia, you might not have such a reason to be frustrated, but here in America, yeah.
It's just the way it goes.
Hard to be out and run for office, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, no, it's hard to win a run for office.
I was wondering if Steve and Aaron, you could do little personal kind of introductions before we get started.
Sure. Guess I'll go first. I'm Aaron. I have a design degree as my undergraduate stuff. I started working in video game studies at the university shortly thereafter, and academics are horrible and never get you anywhere, so I switched over to the hustle and bustle of atheist podcasting, so I can reap in those
money just rolling in, right?
All those tens of listeners, famous, let me tell you. No, I started the podcast mostly because I think my friends and family were getting pretty tired of hearing me bitch about God, and this proved to be a good outlet to drink beer, hang out with friends, and bitch about God. So, so here we are. We were sitting listening to an episode of Cognitive Dissonance once upon a time and kind of thought to ourselves, fuck, we can do that. And turns out it's a lot harder than it looks. Sounds. Have a beer.
You got to get started. So Steve, what do you have?
Well, I've known Aaron for quite a few years now, and he had been talking to me about doing this podcast, and then I wasn't actually part of it at the beginning. I joined him, I don't know, half dozen episodes in, probably.
Episode
like
7 was your first episode, I think.
Oh, well, there you go. Episode 7 it was. But being a like-minded person, I also didn't mind having an outlet where I could talk about things like this and not have people look at me sideways, which was, it's a good thing. But as you said in the introduction, I have a family. I'm a little bit older than Aaron is, and I've been dealing with it a little bit longer.
Yeah, you have. I was pretty lucky. I had fairly non-religious parents. When I was growing up, the religiosity was always spoken of in a practical sense. We're moving to a conservative neighborhood. We have to go to church to be seen to get a good job, that kind of thing. God was never an actual discussion point in the family. Just a thing you were aware of other people being judgy about.
Yeah, I came into it from exactly the opposite side. My father was a Southern Baptist minister for his whole career. So I spent the first 17 years of my life in church every time the doors were open. So that's 3 days a week. Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesday night. Until I was old enough to say, yeah, I'm not going anymore.
So
And pretty
that
much
went over
didn't
well,
believe
I'm
any of
sure.
it. Sorry, what's that?
Did that go over well when you were like, no, put your foot down?
I moved out before I graduated from high school.
Okay.
So
That's
not
one
well.
way to go about it.
There was more to it than that, but that was very, you will follow my rules under my roof kind of guy, and I didn't like his rules.
So it wasn't quite like a Nate Phelps where you almost had to like escape like when the clock ticked midnight and you turned, 18.
I didn't
No.
wait for midnight.
Okay, I don't know. Just a slight delay in the video, so I'm missing just a little bit. But whoever wants to talk about just like how did I think maybe Aaron could talk about this more. So how did the show get started, and what was kind of the initial idea behind it, and maybe like how's it, changed over the 23 episodes you've done?
Yeah. Well, I guess we got started, Shay and I, because he has a history in sound production and radio broadcast work. And when we realized we had no fucking idea what we were doing, we brought in Steve, who actually knows what he's doing with broadcast work.
That's kind of actually what I went to college for.
Yeah, Shay's kind of Shay's kind of a he actually sung for the Pope.
Oh.
Yeah, he was an opera major and accomplished at it. They flew his ass to the Vatican and let him tour around, and didn't even try to buy the silence afterwards. It was a great experience, I'm given to understand. But so we started, and to begin with, I wasn't really sure, because we had like the three big inspiring podcasts, right? There was Cognitive Dissonance, who were crude and funny, and I definitely wanted that. There's Thank God I'm Atheist with Frank and Dan, who were, thoughtful and welcoming, which I would have loved to be, but they're kind of mutually exclusive if you're taking the cognitive dissonance approach. And the Scathing Atheist, Noah, whose production value we would love to match, but we're just not that talented. So we kind of had to take the approach of, okay, we're going to try to be welcoming, so we're going to start the show with a beer review and kind of just general chit-chat, and then we're going to tell a bunch of really crude jokes. And for some of the shows, we thought, well, maybe we can do like a second half of the show discussion or quiz or something fun that's a little bit less about, puppy rape. And
A little less.
a little less, not a lot less, but a little less. And then we thought maybe we could work toward some scripted kind of comedy stuff. The first thing we wrote will actually be released on Thursday in our next episode. We did some rap.
If you want to call it rap, it's some people might put a C before that word.
It's the kind of rap that is produced when people like me use the phrase "we did some rap."
It'll be the white.
Oh God, yeah, it's horrible.
Sounding rap. Listen.
But yeah, it should be fun. We hope. And then we're delving into more scripted content, but we'll see how it goes. Frankly, it takes an enormous amount of time to script content, whereas it only takes a 6-pack of beer to be funny off the cuff. Well,
plus we found that with four of us too, that the kind of the round robin approach to telling stories and reacting to them works pretty well for our little group as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing about the show. Like most shows I listen to are usually a two-person thing, but I think having the four there, and it's not for every episode, but that's what you're going for, is kind of like you just happen to be eavesdropping on a group of people hanging out at a bar just having a talk. So that's kind of, you get that casual feel to it.
Well, and that's what we were hoping for. The extra host situation actually kind of came about because we all have very disparate schedules, and it was difficult to meet consistently, particularly because we all record in one place. So with more hosts, it gives the opportunity to just kind of, take a week off if you need to.
And where are you?
Of course, having more hosts in the room does mean that the editing's a big pain. We're in Laramie, Wyoming, which is the only college town in the state of, the only four-year college town in the state of Wyoming. It's right along I-80.
It's the one little blue dot of reason in an otherwise tragically Texas-like environment.
Well, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, so that's a very blue part of a not-so-blue state.
I went to Atlanta once.
I think a lot of people are like that. A lot of states are like that.
Went to the airport there. It was sticky.
I like the Atlanta
airport's like bigger than... Yeah, it's huge.
It's bigger than our city, I think, by most ways of measuring. We're kind of a postage stamp.
There's more people in it than Wyoming.
Right.
It's not like Wyoming's a small state. It's just a sparsely
or certainly more than
people live in the state.
500,000.
We have the smallest population of any state in the U.S.
Yep. We're still working on reaching that 500,000 mark.
Impressive. So, okay, well, this is what you do in your show at the beginning. So I figured, hey, let's try it out, see how it goes. So we're gonna talk beer. So I actually bought a particular beer for the show because this is what you do. You announce the beer you're gonna have in advance, and then you talk about it. So we have this is the, I can't even pronounce it.
Yeah, neither can I.
Uinta. It's Uinta.
Uinta. Is that like an Indian tribe that got wiped out?
Something like that. Yeah. Apparently it's a mountain.
Okay.
Probably.
In Utah.
There's a mountain on the bottle, so it's the Dubhe Imperial Black IPA. So I went to Beer Advocate and saw that it was ranked 92 out of 100. That's good. This is from a brewery. This is in Salt Lake City. I was a little bit surprised. Like, I thought they only served 2% beer there, but
the beer laws there are really weird. I was in Utah. I think I guess it was last year now. Talk about it on the show in one of the later episodes. But yeah, they have some weird, like, you can't order a second beer until you're done with the one you have. So I was at a bar. We were doing a pub crawl, and the lady walks up to me and she's like, "Do you want another beer?" And I was like, "Yeah, that'd be great." And she just stood there. I was like, today? And she's kind of like, they're not allowed to tell you either. So she just kind of like looked at my beer and was like, it's like, oh, shit. So knocked it back real quick, and then suddenly another beer appeared. Because, 2 beers on the table at the same time makes you an alcoholic.
I guess so. Or you just have somebody sitting with you who doesn't drink, and then they order your second beer so you can kind of rotate. I don't know. It's all
I don't know anybody like that.
Surrounded by really, really rational Mormons.
No, I'm going to...
I don't know anybody like that either.
Well, there you go. Yes, I'm going to a conference this weekend, and I think I know 2 people out of there who don't actually drink, so they're going to be our guide.
There you go. So we tried to get some, but actually Southern Wyoming is completely sold out. I actually just finished talking to the distributor. So we're having to make do. I'm drinking the Shiner Bock Family Pack, which is great for your untapped award listings. But yeah, we've been trying to get that beer for a while now. The guy was saying that he was hoping they would have it back in stores in a week or 2. So apparently it is, that popular.
Well,
and,
I saw... Go ahead.
I don't have any beer with Canadian whiskey. It's a rye whiskey. It's a fine batch.
Canadian whiskey. Not nearly maple syrup enough for me.
Thank God.
I would
so to speak.
die. The hard, yeah. I mean, this is 9%, so it's pretty strong. And as you see, as I have it in a Louisiana beer glass,
Oh, there you go.
quite dark.
Yeah, it is.
That's what we do around here is we get the free beer glasses, or now the brewery scene is exploding here in Atlanta. They have their own. They basically sell you the glass, and then you can get tastes. That's kind of how it works.
Okay. It's actually where this glass came from.
Yeah.
The American Craft Brew Association.
Ooh.
Shay's fiance got us all memberships this year for Christmas, so we got cool glasses and stuff.
Yeah, I like those kind of tulip. So anyway, according to Beer Advocate, the style is actually American Black Ale, which is toasted chocolatey dark malts aligned with an astronomical amount of hops, and I can agree that there's a lot of hops. Wondering what you think about this style, if you've had it before, because for me, this type of beer, it's like a combination of two things, and you gotta like, does it work? Because I don't like the hoppier beers, so I'm like, oh, I like the malty, the sweeter, the stouts, the porters, the brown ales, but then when it just blows you away with the hops, I'm like, whoa.
I'm right there with you. I'm not a big hops guy either. I prefer the maltier ones myself. It seems like the brewers nowadays can't put enough hops in their mixes, and it bothers me. It's too bitter. It sticks in your mouth, and it's not refreshing like it ought to be.
There's actually an interesting article Steve sent me. Maybe we can find it for your show notes about the craft brewer obsession with hops. And oddly enough, Laramie is a hop growing area. I have a couple of friends who work in hydroponic hop growing, and they are local breweries. I just finished a brewery science course put on by Altitude here in town, and they're
local brew pub.
Yeah, their head brewer is a fairly nationally recognized guy, so I'm not sure why he lives here, but they're ordering hops 5 years out because they're basically just nowhere to be found because of the creepy obsession with Heartburn Maker.
I've heard tale of that hops are becoming harder to find because there are very specific types that certain brewers use.
Mm-hmm.
And it would make sense because the craft, I mean, it's just, I don't even know, I can't quantify how it's exploding like the beer.
Well,
market.
Just a few years ago, when a brewer might use a few ounces of hops, he's now using half a bucket. So it's changing, in my opinion, for the worst. It's making beers really hard to drink unless you're somebody who just can't get enough of it. And there's, I think those people are few and far, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. There's a lot of people drinking a lot of craft brews with a ton of hops in them nowadays.
The best example, one of the buddies here of mine who does grow hops, I was talking to him about making a little homebrew batch because I've got some new neighbors moving in, so I thought I'd take them some beer. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to get some hops off you. And I meant like half an ounce, right? Like that's enough for 5 gallons of beer. He offered me 2 1-pound bags. Like that's his expectation of hop consumption. I was like, guy, I'm not making hop oatmeal. But like, it's ridiculous. As far as the community is going, I think there's a new brew pub or a new microbrew opens in America every 3 days right now. So there's a huge explosion of craft brew and home brew kind of outlets and clubs and things like that. There's a lot going on, and it's pretty cool. But beer that's just punchy in the face hoppy, like all that does is make me eat Tums, right? And nobody enjoys that. So
we're a town of 35,000 people, and we have 2 successful brew pubs, another successful private brewer, and God knows how many independent brewers.
4 or 5 anyway, yeah.
Yeah, if this is a microcosm of the country as a whole, beer brewing is huge.
Yeah, they're absolutely everywhere. But yeah, I'm with you. The excessive hoppiness, like I can do it. The problem is that the acids in the hops stick to your tongue, so they build, right? So that's why you would typically taste the lower hop beers first. And when you do that, the difference between the alpha acid and the really high hopped beers, and then there's this thing called dry hopping, where you would put the hops in after the boil or during the whirlpool. And those are your beers that have a lot of hops, but they're really floral. Those are the ones that I prefer versus the ones that are really punchy in the face, acidic.
Yeah, there
In
was a
fact,
local,
Shiner
local
Premium
one.
is a great example.
Hey man, if you put us on your show, you're not going to get to talk much.
Yeah.
You are going to have to cut us off.
Well, it was a local beer I tried, and it was an IPA, and they actually had, like, there's a local magazine, they did, like, the best 116 IPAs they ranked. And there was one, Tropicala, which is out of Athens, it's about an hour from here. University of Georgia, basically, is there. And it had kind of that citrusy flavor before the bitterness kicked in, and that I kind of like, okay, I can deal with that. But yeah, they did blow you away, and I made the joke, like, they said, oh, double IPA, triple IPA. I'm like, does someone have the quad IPA? Is that out yet? It's like a Superman version of a beer.
Awesome.
There's a lot of that happening. So we're gonna take a quick break for a live read, because I like to do these during the show. If you want the gayest atheist podcast in the known universe, head on over to the Gaytheist Manifesto. Trust me, it's a lot more fun than reading the Communist Manifesto, and more likely to get you laid. Callie Wright, who's been on my show and Waiting for Wrath, is the hostess, and yes, she's getting a big old hug when we meet in 3 days.
She is awesome.
She really is. We had such a good time with her on her show.
Yeah, can you talk about that episode? Because you kind of started talking on the subject, and you're like, I need an expert, and then there she was.
It was crazy. We were in the middle of a recording session, and Aaron throws out a tweet, and less than half an hour later, we had her set up and recording.
We have I don't even know how to say it. We have our very own like gay voice on the show, Big Gay Jim, but he had a head cold that day and couldn't be on. So we were talking about a story, an LGBTQ story, and kind of were making up words. And I thought I was hoping for like a tweet back or a mention, like that was the goal. So I started tweeting Callie, and I was like, so is this a word? Is what would I say? Transgenderism, is that a word? And she replied in like 2 seconds, which first of all is insane. And we followed her back. She sent us like this huge message about like the reality of what we were talking about. And then it was just like, I can hop on Skype and talk to you guys about it. And so our studio is in the basement of Shay's house, and we had basically no connectivity. And we were utterly unprepared. So we stopped recording, took about 20 minutes, rewired our entire studio, and routed everything connectivity-wise through Steve's phone. And Skyped her up. And it was great. We had a great talk. She was amazing. The fact that she would slum it enough to be on our show was pretty impressive by itself. But yeah, she was hilarious. She's so much fun. The Gaytheist Manifesto is definitely a podcast worth checking out.
I'm glad I brought it up. Yeah, it's one of those things that happens. Like if you listen to enough podcasts, you hear everybody kind of guest starring on everybody's podcast, and you hear the same voices over and over again. But every time Callie's on, it's like, that's great. It's like having this friend come over. You're like, all right, we're set now.
She is. She's absolutely the friend that you've never met, right? Just from your first like interaction all the way through, she's just great. You wonder how you've never talked to her before.
She just jumped right in, like she was part of the group, and like.
Yeah.
It's one of those moments when you look back and you go, man, I can't believe that worked out as well as it did, and it was fabulous.
Yeah, we and it was one of those validating things too, right? Because somebody who does a show in conjunction with an organization that has like a legitimate message and like proper aspirations and so on, whereas we're just getting drunk in the basement and bullshitting. So that was a really special recording. I'm glad you said
she jumped into our show, and our show is not safe for children. Dan, these are all words we use with fair regularity, but she doesn't use them on her shows. But she
it was like, oh, that's another thing.
Mind.
That's another thing I love is like when someone does a show and they don't usually curse, and then they come on another show and they're loud to. It's like, oh, the freedom! I can say fuck. It's great. It's so cool. And you were talking about bathroom situation, and that's a tough one in a way. That's a serious situation that people go through. I mean, that's a trauma that you don't personally. It's like there are things that you just don't understand. Like as I get all the privilege, checks, straight male, American, white, all that good stuff,
Oh,
super
yeah.
pale. That's all there. So the one thing, that's on the minority side, the atheism is like there. But then you think like being trans is like your gender is not correct, and that's just to deal with it. And to have that's one thing that Callie does that is great, is she always points out that not everybody has the support system that she does. Like, she has that, and that's a important thing. And my computer just dinged. Thanks. Random noises are great during the middle of the show. But I'm like, turn on Facebook while you're doing a show.
Callie's, I think we're really lucky to have her, and she'll tell you on the podcast or if you talk to her that atheism is a great home for the LGBTQ community, and I got to agree, right? And I think that as the people that society gives all the power to, I mean, minus the atheism thing, of course, it's incumbent on us to share whatever resources we have. And I can't imagine somebody more deserving or somebody a cause more deserving than Callie's. She's awesome, and anything we can do to help. So, we live in Wyoming, right? Like, just this year, Jim was finally able to get married legally. And it's fucking infuriating that some backward, science-denying jackasses, Middle Eastern blood god can rule tyrannically over our version of morality in 2015 in the United States, where ideally we all share a common set of freedoms, but fucking apparently one set of rules for everybody is a little bit too much for politicians. I don't know.
Maybe it's a hard thing to figure out. Like, what are your unknown, like the privileges you have that you don't even know about and think about, but then you think that you have that God-given right to have that, and you're actually trying to put it into codify that you have more rights than other people. No.
No.
Well, that's what it boils down to.
I'll put it that way.
It's the people on the religious right who believe that their practice their religion extends into my rights, and that's the problem, and that's the a lot of time on our show talking about LGBT issues. It's not because it affects us person of a lot of friends who are like that, and we understand their plight, and like Aaron said, it just seems to make sense that people who don't base their belief system on ancient sky Jews and the writings of might be the most willing to accept those who have an alternate way of living.
Yeah. As it turns out, Sky Jura doesn't get to tell me who I love and who my friends love, but he does get to somehow, as if by fucking magic, dictate the legality of their situation, and that desperately pisses me off. I grew up in Canada, and Canadians have had the national gay marriage, I think, or marriage equality, since 2002, 2004, or something like that. We haven't caught on fire yet. Find somebody that has anything overly bad to say about Canada or Canadians as a group versus, Americans or the religious or fucking any other group.
You fuckers are far too polite. That's all I can say about that.
Yeah, don't you hate it that I give you all of my Canadian whiskey? I mean, goddamn.
Yeah.
Being the only Canadian.
Yeah, call your relatives and tell them to send you more whiskey.
So being the only Canadian that most people know here, First, I get a lot of Canadian whiskey gifted to me, which I fucking hate, so Steve gets all of that. And every once in a while, I legitimately get somebody ask me what it's like to grow up in an igloo. It's like, really? That's how.
Actually, my next question. So I'm glad you're proactive. That's good.
Honestly, the real trick is to make sure you cut the blocks of your house out of the good ice and not the bad ice, because nobody wants a yellow wall.
Well, Zach, you're from Georgia, right? I'm kind of wondering what it's like to grow up in a tar paper shack.
Yeah, right. How many moonshine stills do you own? That's the question.
I'm not actually from Georgia, though I have lived here longer than anywhere else. I'm from Pittsburgh, thus the non-accent and the non-religious background of any kind. Although strangely, about 10 years ago, my parents kind of went back to Catholicism. They're a very nice, friendly, no-hell version. Because
well, that's good.
You kind of create your own version of religion as you go.
Yeah.
Isn't that what all the religions do, though? They pick and choose from their, so-called holy text, and choose those bits which suit them most, and then build their belief structure around that, regardless of how silly it is.
So that's the real crux of it, isn't it? Because even the assholes purporting to base their decisions and the laws of the land on, the myths and legends of Bronze Age goat herders, even they can't fucking agree on which version of zombie Jesus is the right one. It's
I grew up in the
really
Southern
annoying.
Baptist Church, right? And how many different types of Baptists alone are there? Oh my God!
Yeah,
You can't get 10 religious people in a room.
And I don't even know what a denominate, what that actually means. Like, is there an official understanding for each one of these kind of mini versions?
I just want to,
Religious political parties, they all have their own little platform, and it's not exactly like anybody else's little platform.
Yeah, God forbid, right?
I wish.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus. Shiner Bock is some burpy beer. Sorry about that, listeners.
I always come up with the whole concept that if they made, say Christianity like the official religion of America, I would say to every Christian, it's probably not going to be the version that you follow. It'll probably end up being like Mormonism or something.
Oh God.
Yeah, we just picked. Yeah, we picked it out of a hat, and that was the one that we got. Sorry.
As the next time we use
piss
that
off a
without
bunch
the
of Bible
golden
belters,
tablets in
make
it.
Episcopalians the religion of choice.
Which ones are the fucking snake handlers? Which ones are the...
Those are weirdo, evangelical Baptists or something? I don't know.
The Episcopalians are kind of nicer.
The Church of the Holy Darwin Award? What the fuck? Really? You are biologically predisposed to not be near snakes. And your fucking plan every Sunday morning, instead of watching Darkwing Duck and X-Men, is to go stick your hand in a basket full of cobras? And you get paid for it? And people listen to you as though you're a voice of authority? Oh, fuck.
My best experience with snake handlers is from the show Justified, frankly.
I remember that guy, yeah.
Oh, shit. Yeah, no kidding. So Zach, just out of curiosity, what, if you were to rate that beer out of 10, what would you give it?
Probably at the 6 just because of the style. The hoppiness is just too much for me. It's
Right.
It's one of those it's a really good version of that type of beer, but I don't think I want to drink it. Every once in a while, I'll be okay, I want a Sierra Nevada Torpedo. I just want to be blown away with hops. Just if I'm gonna have an IPA, let's do it. But for the most part, I have actually a Duck Rabbit Milk Stout here, which maybe my next beer might be smart and call it a night.
I gotta take down the show notes, so that when we review that, we can put your rating in there too. Because now that you've interacted with us, whether you like it or not, you're going to wind up on a friend of the show page. So we're the overly attached girlfriend of the podcast community.
All right, I could use some more stalkers, to be honest. I'm actually writing a beer column that I'm going to post tomorrow, and it's about I thought the style was called Ghost, but it's actually Goza. But I've been really enjoying that lately. I've had it was one out of Anderson Valley. It was like a blood orange one, and then there's a Victory Kirsch, which is actually a cherry one. It's a pink beer, and it's quite good. And it's one of those ones where I was actually stalking a local beer place because they're on Twitter, and once they posted on Twitter, because they do that, we have this beer in our store. I immediately drove over and got 4-pack.
Nice.
So that's quite good.
We'll have to.
That's what I'm trying to do. See, I'm going to ReasonCon this weekend, big conference in Hickory, North Carolina, and yes, that's a city. It exists. Well, I hope it is, because that's where I'm going to be. It's an hour north of Charlotte, I believe, and I was trying to do a beer exchange with some of the people, but then I realized I might be bringing a trunk full of beer to a conference. They probably have beer there.
Go for it. Yeah, it turns out all you have to do is mention beer to Matthew the Apostle on In the Name of God, the podcast. He'll just fucking bring you beer. We sent that guy 3 tweets, and 2 days later he had a case of beer for us. It's weird.
Yeah, so he was doing a road trip, is that right? He's kind of because he's in New York, right? I think.
Right.
Yeah, he was making a trip down I-80, and since we're right on I-80, he timed it out, and he spent an evening with us, drinking some beer and having some food, and then again on his way back, and dropped us off some local beer on the way. So we'd have never gotten a hold of any of the Butternut Brewery beer if it had not been for Matthew the Apostle.
Yeah, it's been pretty good beer, too. And he gave us some Nothing Fails Like Prayer stickers, which are awesome. And a donation to his show right now is actually matched by him and goes to the FFRF. So if your listeners are feeling generous, that's a fantastic cause, and they'll get an awesome sticker.
Yeah, I believe Matthew and No Religion Required right now are doing that when they're taking their donations and doing Freedom from Religion subscriptions for people.
Well, I don't have mine handy, or I'd put it on camera real quick. But
You mean this?
Oh yeah, there we go. Nothing feels like.
Look at that.
If you want a fancy sticker like that, head over to In the Name of God, the podcast.
Going to be there.
I put it on the back of my phone, which means I have to remember to keep my phone face up when I'm in business meetings.
I put mine up. We're part of a mug club at the local pub, and yeah, mine's just right on the side of my mug. So I'm pretty sure that the spit content of my beer hasn't gone up since then, but who knows?
We'll have one last brief pause here for the second live read of the show. So if you want a show with its own laugh track and 2 co-hosts who will make fun of your state and/or city, try out Cognitive Dissonance. They're from Chicago and are worried that they're going to get deliveranced, or actually that's on the high end of their expectations when we all meet in North Carolina in about 72 hours. Hi, Tom and Cecil. Good thing we brought them up earlier.
See? They're the guys.
I mean, they just...
Yeah, they're one of my don't miss podcasts. Every week, no matter what.
No Religion
no matter how busy I am.
And they made fun of Georgia for half it. It was great.
Oh yeah, no, they're awesome.
One state, pretty much every.
Wisconsin. Yeah. I don't know, but
every episode.
Yeah, every Monday morning at 8, man. The best part of waking up is Cognitive Dissonance on your phone. That's all right. Now we're on
Monday morning. I'm pretty much a Skeptocrat listener on Monday morning, but Cognitive Dissonance.
Well, see, I gotta wake up before I can listen to the Skeptocrat though, because man, those Noah and Heath, they talk so fast. If I'm not tuned in fully there, which before 10 in the morning is just not gonna happen. Yeah, I miss half the jokes, which is that's nice though, because then I get to listen to the same episode twice, and it's new.
Yeah, it's true. There are days of the week where you're oh yeah, it's this show's on today. When you do your show, is there one person who's in charge of the articles, or do you kind of make it a team effort? Do you have your responsibilities all kind of shelled out for the show?
Yes.
It's a pretty...
Yes to all that.
Aaron and I typically try to put a list of articles together into a big show note, and then we'll all look them over and decide who wants to do what. But anybody can bring anything to any show at any given moment. So.
Yeah,
we try to have a brief conversation before we start recording, but frankly, not always.
And it's not uncommon to be halfway through a show and have something come up or something run long. So, yeah, we use Google Docs for lack of a better alternative, and kind of at least try to put the ridiculous points of every show in a list and the beer and the next week's beer, and it's a passable attempt at organization, but once you get a case of beer into the night, all that shit just goes right out the window. Speaking of, I have moved on to the Shiner Haymaker, which is kind of like licking a skunk's butthole, so I'm going to go ahead and not recommend this.
Wow.
That's a ringing endorsement.
Not a beer ever, but yeah, I was at a friend's house, and it was like a party, and we had a Pilsner Urquell, and it was probably 6 months skunked out, and it was like the worst thing we'd ever tasted. And that's the only issue. I really love the images on your site, but you have the guy on the moon with a green bottle of beer, and I don't know, for some reason, every bottle of beer I've had that's been green, I have not enjoyed the experience. So maybe on the moon, the sun would be hitting it even more. So yeah.
I was gonna say, without atmosphere,
it's an attractive bottle.
It's nice and colorful. But it turns out that light and beer don't get along very well. So pro tip for your home listeners if they're brewing, brown bottles are your friend.
Yeah, that was one of my things. Like one of my transitional beers that got me into drinking good stuff was like Newcastle, but because it came in that clear bottle, you just didn't know what you're gonna get. So I was like, when I got on draft, I'm like, yes, and then you get it in the bottle, you're like, well, I don't know how long this stuff's been sitting out there.
Yeah, like what the hell happened to that? Yeah, it's hit and miss. Oxygen, not your friend. Sunlight, not your friend. Keep your beer in a cellar.
So I'm drinking now Duck Rabbit Milk Stout, which is way too close for you. 3D, whoa, yeah. This is actually a beer out of North Carolina, so where I will be in a few days. And I've had a few good beers from that. One thing, there's a beer place near me that does the mixed sixer, so you can just kind of buy individual beers, and I like to do that.
Okay.
And I've had not a good experience with the ones I've gotten this time, but this one's actually good. It's kind of a darker beer, and it's got kind of a little bit of a roasty kind of flavor toward the end.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually why I got this six-pack, this Shiner Family Pack. And the first two that I started with when we were recording, the Shiner Premium, that's nice. And the Bohemian Black Lager, I would recommend that one.
I had the Shiner Bock, their birthday beer, and it actually tasted like chocolate cake. Like you could actually taste kind of like frosting. Like I don't know how they exactly did that, but I actually enjoyed that. I enjoy my dessert kind of beers occasionally. I think the look in your face is like, no.
We tried. I think it was episode 3 or 4. We tried Voodoo Donut from Rogue Breweries, and apparently when they say donut, they just mean sprinkles, because it tasted like dough and sprinkles. But it was like 8.5% too. That was a punch you in the face with sugar until you're drunk kind of beer.
Yeah, that's one flavor that beers have struggled, because it was the one I had it had the bacon.
Sure.
But it just kind of was a smoke. Like putting smoke in beer, you really have to it has to be very minimal. Like you were talking about hops earlier. When it comes to smoke, there's maybe a hint of it, but if there's any more, it's like, why did they burn my beer? It's weird.
Seems like we get a lot of burnt tasting beers. The dark ones. People like some people seem to like that really roasted flavor. To me, it's just wrong. It just seems like somebody burnt something and cooked it and bottled it anyway.
It's a matter of roasting the grains, right? Because you can start with a really light grain that you would normally use for like a Pilsner malt, and then you can just roast the absolute dog shit out of it, and it goes up in a gradation scale that I won't bother to explain. But once you get to the point where it's like kind of the color of toffee or caramel, after that, it just tastes like the fire it was in. Like there's no residual grain flavor. Now you're just in the like specialty malt, burnt coffee bean realm. And that's
exactly what I was going to say. That reminds me. A lot of those beers remind me of really dark coffees where they seemed like they roasted the crap out of it. Like somebody lost track of what was going on while they were roasting it, and next thing you know, the coffee tastes like, I don't know, charcoal.
Yeah, exactly that.
It's not a coffee guy, so yeah, coffee and beer doesn't really go for me unless it's like a very small part of the flavor. So is there like a dream beer for, well, probably Aaron more, but like a dream beer for the show that you'd want to have?
The very first beer that I brewed was it's an African honey beer called Taj, and it's basically mead with hops and a little bit of like a Pilsner malt grain, and that was really awesome. And so far as I know, you can't get Taj from a commercial brewery, but that would be a thing that I would really like to try.
Wow, that's exotic. That's one I haven't even heard of before. So yeah.
Yeah, if you get the opportunity, I mean, it'll kick you in the nuts. It's typically made with a variety of champagne yeast, so it'll clock in at like 16%.
Damn.
But
Yeah, that's crazy. Drinking beer with more alcohol than wine it's not for people that are really thinking.
That's that gallon jug that I
anyway.
brought camping. You remember that really light fizzy beer I brought camping when we first?
I remember a little bit of that beer and thinking, not my favorite.
Yeah, by the bottom of the container, I don't think anybody remembered what was going on. But that was a tasty.
It's also possible by the time we tapped that one, I was 4 or 5 sheets to the wind because you showed up late in the day, as I recall, and when we camp, we day drink.
Yeah, there was some of that. I am not an abundantly punctual person.
That sounds like my kind
I think
of
I had beer for breakfast.
Well, that's one thing I do. We like to go down because we're, close to the Gulf Coast, Florida/Alabama. And when I go there, I like to have a beer at like 9 in the morning just because I'm not at work. I like to
Right.
post a picture and show to people on Twitter, like, yes, I'm drinking. Like, I have a beer at 9 in the morning. Okay, I'm good. But for some reason, it's like, oh, I can, so I will.
Oh yeah, it's how you know you're on vacation, right? When you can roll out of bed and skip the Bloody Mary. You don't even need the tomato juice excuse. You can just go right into booze. That's
Well, the friends of mine, they poured their tomato juice in their beer, which to me is wrong. I love beer, I love tomato juice, but put the two of them together, it's not something I want to consume. But camping,
that makes me make that
9
face.
o'clock beer is good. Although when I have a beer that early in the day, my kids typically give me a little shit about it, but
Yeah, see, I don't have that
they'll
problem.
be along.
Oh, kids having people.
Yeah,
Maybe
right.
any special messages for Matt the Apostle?
Thanks for the beer. Yeah, no, he's a great guy, and we need to get him on the show, of course. But mostly, he was the first kind of other person in the atheist podcasting community that we had any kind of direct contact with, and it was in person over some beers. So it was really cool and kind of validating of what we're doing. So that was a big boost to perhaps a big undeserved boost to our show ego. But yeah, that was really awesome.
Well, I mean,
So I guess
That's
I should say
exactly what I
thank
was
you.
going to say. His on with this and come by and talk to us was very validating because we've done 20 some episodes, but we'd had no contact with anybody outside of our own little group, other than watching the small graph of by week. But once we started corresponding and talking to Matt the Apostle, not exponentials like that, we're kind of finally casting goes.
Yeah, we've had no. Yeah, he's right about the interaction. It took her being the person that introduces the show for 15 freaking episodes before my lady friend even gave us an iTunes review. So yeah, that's how desperate for communication we are.
My wife still won't listen to it.
Actually, I don't think she listens to it either. She just did the intro and the like. I don't even know what you call that. Like the thing at the end that reminds people not to sue us. What the fuck is that called? God damn it, words
We'll
are
call it
hard.
an outro.
Outro, yeah.
There we go.
Do you have any other dream guests, like people you'd want to get on your show for an interview, or just to, have a beer with?
Well, I mean, obviously, like the big six guys, right? Like Noah and Heath, Tom and Cecil, and Frank and Dan. And Mackenzie. Give a shout out to Mackenzie because she runs the awesome Facebook group.
I listen to a lot of podcasts every week, but no matter what, no matter how busy I am, I listen to those three shows. Yeah, they'd be like superstars if we get them on our show.
It'd be awesome to talk with with Jake Farwarden. So he's got that
It really would.
that awesome Australian accent. It's smooth. Makes me jealous. Makes me wish I could have an accent.
Jake runs a tight ship. I did the Imaginary Friends show, I don't know, a few weeks ago, and he does like 2 shows in a row, and it's freaking exhausting. It's like 2 hours, and he actually like sends you like serious scientific articles that you have to like review, and you're like, half the time I'm just making jokes, and I'm like, this is like, oh, I have to actually do research. And
yeah. See, thought-provoking stuff is not our forte. What would be really cool to have on the show would be
scientific article to our most recent show, and I was pretty much talking to myself.
Yeah, it's true. It would be really cool to have the folks on from Skeptics with a K. Just because talking to folks from the Merseyside Skeptic Society would be even more validating. But oftentimes I'll turn on Skeptics with a K, like when I'm doing lawn work, when the mower's running or the weed whacker's running, and I can't even really understand what they're saying. It's just their accents are so delightful that everything they say is lovely, and it would be really fun to talk to them. So if you can work that out, that'd be great.
One thing I've noticed in the community is there are a lot of people from Australia involved, and then we have some Canadians and the Brits too. So it is kind of an international effort. I mean, I was doing that show, and I think we had actually, 1 week I didn't have a guest, so I just threw it out there to a Facebook group, and we had Nick Morgan Moore, who was in Australia, and we had Deb, who Heretic Woman in Canada, on there. So I was like, oh, cool, I'm representing like 3 countries. That's awesome. Yeah.
Damn. That's the kind of international
Things that's great about podcasting is that it closes up the distance between us, such that next thing you know, you're talking to somebody from a. It's like I'm going to get them on the phone. So this is pretty sweet.
It's almost going to be odd because I'm doing all this Twitter and Facebook interacting. I'm like, oh no, I'm going to actually see these people in person in a few days. I don't know. Will you like it?
It's a bit intimidating, right? I mean, when the first couple of conferences that I went to for education stuff, not skeptic stuff, that was a bit weird. Got up on stage with Jane McGonigal, and that was absolutely terrifying. But very cool. If you haven't, she's a video game researcher. She wrote a book called Reality is Broken about game mechanics and common learning. Really good stuff.
She's not a teacher from Hogwarts?
Yeah, right. Well, going by the hair maybe, but no, she's really lovely. See, right? Oh, Harry Potter.
So
that's the kind of magic I want to believe in, right? The kind where you get to shoot lightning at shit. I want to shoot lightning. Skyju doesn't let me shoot lightning. That's the biggest problem with Christendom right there.
Yeah, with like Harry Potter and I was thinking of like Game of Thrones. Like when a character actually is like from a different religion, they actually like show their powers. You're like, oh, I would actually believe that if the person's like, I believe in this God, and now it will allow me to like set people on fire, and I will do that now. Okay, you might have something there, but yeah,
right.
Sure, anybody wants me to believe in their religion, all they have to do is show me evidence that I can see and experience and quantify, and I'm on board.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. If you've got the faith that lets me move shit with my mind, I am so on board with that. I will Jean Grey the shit out of that. Yeah.
Yeah, there is the geek side as well. So we've done about an hour, so we don't want to keep you folks too long for the dinner hour there. So why don't you give kind of a closing and let people who are listening know where they can find you, Rathers.
Absolutely. So if you want to check out our show, and I assume that since you're watching this, you do, You're going to want to check us out on Twitter at 4Wrath, and you can find that in my little Bari thing. That's the number 4 because I fail at marketing. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/waitingforwrath. On the web at waiting, and again the number 4, waitingforwrath.com. And you can call our show and have your voice on it if that's a thing you want to stoop to at 513-760-0463. See, I've totally got the script up right here and I was prepared for this.
He's good.
No, it'd be really lovely if folks wanted to come check out the show and give us a little bit of interaction. I think, maybe not the biggest reason, but it has become a bigger reason for doing the show for me is to kind of find out what other people think and mostly to hear people who know what they're talking about correct me when I'm talking out of my ass. So that'd be really lovely.
It's almost a full-time job correcting Aaron from talking out of his ass.
Yeah, no shit. Right?
We put up new episodes every Thursday morning, so we got some hard competition on Thursday mornings, but
yeah, we thought this shit out so well that we decided it would be a good idea to open against the scathing atheist.
Yeah, I think Dogma debates Thursday too, but I mean it's kind of like a TV thing. Like you don't. Like someone says, I saw a show last night. I'm like, yeah, but I T-voted. I'll watch it 2 days later. So yeah, sometimes you remember when a show comes out, and then you just like look at your iPhone and go, oh, look, there's a new episode. How cool! So yeah,
that's right. Mostly it shows up in Instacast.
Yeah, yeah. So check us out at waitingforwrath.com. You can find all the info there, including soon a great picture of Zach listed on our Friends of the Show page.
Oh boy. If there's a great picture of me, that'd be awesome. And Steve, any final words before we call it a night?
No, just thanks for having us on, and it's been a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been good. I like the beer talk. I'm gonna have to just do an exclusive like a beer talk sometime because I feel like I'm just getting started, but it's a lot of fun and it's a very enjoyable pursuit. So you can find me, it's pretty easy, Zachrilege on Twitter and the Zachrilege cast on Facebook. I try to post every day on the Facebook page and link to other podcasts that I've been listening to, and then you can be kind of scared because of how many podcasts I actually listen to. And in closing, I'll be attending my first full-on atheist conference this weekend, and I'm a bit scared and nervous and excited. I'm going to have an experience that's unlike anything I've done before. I'll be completely submerged in atheist nonsense and booze from what I hear. For everyone coming, I want to hug the necks of all of you, and each person who wants to talk can be on this show. I'm here to highlight the best podcast and non-podcast voices out there because we need to be heard, and we will be heard, and we will drink beer while being heard. That's right. It's a thirsty business, so I will say good night, and thanks again for the Waiting for Wrath folks for coming on. Do subscribe to their podcasts, quality stuff, and hey, Wyoming people have feelings too. So thanks again, everybody, and good night and happy drinking.